Alright, it is time to rank another soundtrack, and this time I'm going to be doing Shaq Fu on the Sega Genesis. So normally I rank the stages in the game. In this case, I'm going to be doing the fighting stages for each of the 12 characters. Now, there are a couple weird anomalies where, like, for example, when you fight as Beast in the exhibition mode, he has Shaq's theme, but in story mode, he has his own. And same thing with Nezu, the kid. He has Liatsu's theme in the exhibition, but in the story mode, he has his own. So I ranked them by the distinct themes that they had in the story mode, plus Shaq's exhibition stage. Even though his lair was actually Beast's, it's weird, but everybody has their own song, totaling 12 altogether. I'm going to preface this like I normally do by saying that this list is just my opinion. It's completely subjective. Feel free to leave comments with your own opinions on how this is ranked or how you would rank the songs, what you like, what you didn't like, etc. I encourage discussion and debate. So without any further ado, let's get on with the list. Number 12, Beast. This one just bores me. It sounds like it's gonna build up to something really cool, and then it just doesn't. It has a pretty cool overall sound to it, but not much happens. It just kind of stays in one place and doesn't do anything significant. Number 11, Auroch. By the way, I have no idea if I'm pronouncing half of these correctly. This one opens up with a pretty sparse arrangement, which fits the whole wasteland landscape. But then the bass kicks it up a notch a bit, and before you know it, we're in a full-fledged song. It has a Spanish feel to it, I guess, since Auroch is supposed to be a bull or bull rock monster hybrid. It's decent, and it's distinct from the rest of the soundtrack for the most part, but it doesn't really blow my hair back. Number 10, Shaq. It sounds like a mid-90s dance song. I would think something a little more hip-hop would have been a better fit for Shaq, since he was a rapper, or at least he attempted it. Weirdly, during exhibition matches, Beast also has this song, and Beast's lair is also used as Shaq's home location. Like, they couldn't come up with a creative place for Shaq to fight in, like, I don't know, basketball court or something. It's an upbeat tune, and it's fairly catchy, but I don't know, there's something about it that doesn't really do much for me. It might be the instrumentation choice, but it kind of starts to sound irritating after a little while. I can't really put my finger on it. Number 9, Diesel. This song has a lot of energy, and it has a cool riff, but it sounds like it's building up to something big, and it doesn't. It really kind of does the opposite and dies off and drifts into a minimalist bridge part. Now, I don't have a problem with that in theory. I do like unpredictability in music, but I don't know, I kind of wanted to hear where this one sounded like it was going. Number 8, Voodoo. The part that stands out the most in this song is the percussion. It's busy, has a choppy pattern, and it's very full. There are no empty spots. It actually sounds like there are multiple people banging away on the drums, which is very likely what they were going for when producing this. The lead instrumentation is minimal, but it's a nice contrast to the percussion, and it's a cool little chord progression. I'd say it's even low-key, very melodic. So I think it does what it needs to do, and really what it should be doing. If the riff were as busy as the drums, then there'd be too much going on, plus it would actually be too melodic. This one is more about mood, although like I said, the melody is nicely understated. Number 7, Nezu. For some reason, you only hear this song in the story mode. Nezu will use Liatsu's theme in exhibitions, like I mentioned earlier. It's another one of those weird quirks. Anyway, the song's intro might make you think that this song is going to be kind of droney with an up-tempo beat, but then the bass kicks into high gear and starts getting pretty funky. And then flutes come in on top of that, and then it becomes quite the concoction. It almost sounds a little too chaotic, but the tones are so vastly different from each other that they don't step on each other's toes. Depending on your taste, you might think this is a bit of a clash, but I kind of like the odd combo. Number 6, Colonel. The beat kicks in, and the synth sequence part fades out prior to the next segment starting, which has a slow riff that complements the busy rhythm section quite well. Then the full beat with the synth comes back on top of the main riff, tying it all together. It's not too complex, but it's a nice combination of two things that don't really sound like they belong together, but when you put it to practice, it works, which I didn't really notice the soundtrack had so many of these until I deep dived in for this ranking. Number 5, Liatsu. The flute is the star of the show here, even though it takes a break for a few seconds here and there. The rest of the arrangement is just accompaniment to let the flute do its thing, which, although not terribly complex, still goes into a lot of variations and never gets old. You do hear that same flute in Nezu's theme, again drawing more parallels between the two, but there's a lot more room for it to breathe here. It also sounds a lot like the story mode intro song for whatever that's worth. Number 4, Calorie. The rhythm section carries this song, at least in the verses. The percussion and bass are leading the way with what sounds like a glockenspiel perhaps, and the keyboard is just hiding in the background with a sharp pad synth, acting as a soundscape. It sounds so fucking rich and full, and there aren't even any real lead instruments, although the Glock does have a melody to it. And then after a few measures of that, the flute kicks in and it changes up the complexion of the song. This part is cool and it adds variety to the song, but I definitely prefer the groovy beat of the verses. I think it's one of the better produced segments in the entire soundtrack. Number 3, Memphis. There's a real creepy vibe on this song, which works well considering the fighter the song represents is a green ghoul demon or whatever. It starts off with a simple but brooding pulsing synth that leads into the main verse, which is also a simple riff with a descending chord progression. But it's such a dark, moody tune, it would be too much if it were any more complicated. The spices in the stew are in the production. The heavy bassy synth in the background just following the root notes make it sound even darker, and I love the weird little pitch bends in the synth when it loops back to the beginning again. Number 2, Raja. The intro is really going for that Egyptian sound, and the riff in the intro continues into the verse, but the beat that drops in is more electronic and actually sounds a lot like the beat in Colonel's theme, only with less going on in the synth sequence. It's an interesting combination, and once again we've got another one of those odd combos I've mentioned. What else is interesting about Raja's theme is how it goes directly from this, I don't want to say upbeat section, but definitely lively, into a more sinister tone while maintaining the same beat. It actually segues quite perfectly. And number 1, Set. This theme is Raja and Memphis' love child. And I mean the music, I can't even imagine these two having sex. It's got the Egyptian tones of Raja and the dark vibes of Memphis, particularly in the intro. But it goes off into different directions too. Like right after the intro, the bass goes into a bit of a funky groove, and then there's this overlay of what sounds like wind chimes from hell. It's really weird, but I love it. It's like there could have been big loud bells that you hear all the time, but the composer wanted to go with something a little quirky while staying in the same vein, and it works in the context of the song, so perfect choices all around. And that'll do it for this list. Here is a quick recap. Number 12, Beast. Number 11, Auroch. Number 10, Shaq. Number 9, Diesel. Number 8, Voodoo. Number 7, Nezu. Number 6, Colonel. Number 5, Liatsu. Number 4, Calorie. Number 3, Memphis. Number 2, Raja. And number 1, Set. So what are your thoughts? What are your opinions? What do you think of the list, and how would you rate it differently? Feel free to leave these in the comments. That's it for this ranking. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.